The IMF data that came out says that 16% of global growth this year, all the growth that happens in the world, 16% of that is coming from the India engine. Yes, of course, things can be much better, but let's not disparage the way things are as well. I want to take two questions. What is the expectation that people have for their own quality of life this year and next? Okay, so the quality of Aam Aadmi's life last year, has it improved? Is it the same? Has it gotten worse? So 35% of the respondents in Yashwant's data say that it's improved. This was 39% earlier. So that's actually tending downwards from the beginning of the government. Is the same as about 30%, and has got worse is now at 35%. So those who think that things are worse is actually coming down, because that was earlier at 49%, 42%, 45%. So it's actually come down to 35%. But Yashwant, the fact also is that at the beginning of this government's term, we went into the pandemic, and therefore, if you compare from where the government started to now, it seems that the outlook is generally more positive than it was 5 years ago.
Exactly, Rahul, and that's a fact that pandemic was a black swan event. I mean, from all parameters, and somehow the numbers, if you take the standalone numbers as on today and do not look into the timeline, you will look into the distress signals and you will read the data in a different way. But if you look at the timeline and you see that people are actually comparing their situation a couple of years back during the pandemic years, right after the second wave and so on and so forth. And this is where you realize that actually the data is coming down to pre-pandemic emotion or sentiment in that way. So that doesn't mean there is no distress. That doesn't mean people are not complaining that there are no problems. That doesn't mean people are not saying that they have a problem in running their kitchen. But at the same time, the same set of respondents are also appreciating the fact they are just out of the pandemic. They are somehow appreciating the government, the way they are handling the things, and the optimism level is high. So there are both the things. Number one, distress signals are there. People are complaining. Big number of people are complaining. It is difficult to manage their kitchen, difficult to manage their day-to-day budget. But at the same time, the optimism and hope index is high that things will get better from here.
Now, so let me run that question. In fact, the question about how people view the next year. Are they confident that next year will be better or worse? Here it is. What's your understanding of the quality of the common man's life next year? Will improve, say, 42%, but keep in mind that earlier 58% in 2020 and 67% in 21 thought life in the year to come would be better. Okay, so now will be the same is about 31%. 31% say it will be the same. In 2018, it was 14%. In 2019, it is 17%. Now that's 31%. So will be the same as 31%, and will deteriorate is 28%. In 2018, it was about 28%. So it's kind of just there. How would you be reading this data, Yashwant? The fact that the level of, you can call it exuberance or optimism, is more muted, but it's not as if it's gloom and doom either.
Exactly. That's how I read it. That, there is optimism. It is a bit of muted in that way because still the inflation issues are bothering them. Having said that, there is also data in the timeline, Rahul, which has to be seen before this term of 2019 to 24 and starting that data in 2013. That will give the context, in that way. Almost 8 out of 10 back in 2013 poll were saying a negative sentiment, saying that they are not really hopeful. Basically, when you look into the data of 2013 and compare to post-pandemic data, it is eye-opener, Rahul, that the way people used to express the hopelessness in 2013-14 time and the post-pandemic time are almost on the same level. That is what explains actually, Rahul, that why exactly these distressing numbers are not really turning into a political disaster for the BJP at this point of time. Simply because people are not only comparing it with the situation in post-pandemic, they are also comparing it 10 years back. Somehow this is a long-term trend line, and this trend line is giving the hope or the positive emotion for the respondent And I guess that more
Yashwant,
than economic
okay, you make an
policy or
important point.
anything,
Let Supriya respond to it, because when you look at the data and the economic situation in our country, bear in mind that there is a war between Russia and Ukraine that goes on. There is a massive crisis in the Middle East which is potentially escalating. In China, their economy is in a black hole. Evergrande, one of their biggest real estate companies, has gone bust. And therefore, when you look at this data, Supriya, you have to bear what Rajiv Kumar was saying, that all this is happening at a time of immense geopolitical uncertainty.
And geopolitical uncertainty has been a part of Indian economy and Indian life since we coupled with the world. So this is nothing new.
No, but we are doing better than the rest of the world. Can I just call one second? Let me call that IMF data on the screen.
No, one second. No, I want to
the
speak on this
projection
data.
for India.
Please speak on this data, because I think your reading of this data is incorrect. You said the number of people who believe their condition is going to deteriorate next year has gone up from 25 to 28%. People who said will remain the same from 14%, it has gone to 31%. So there is more doom. Lesser people believe it's going to significantly improve. If things are so hunky-dory, more and more people will believe their condition is going to improve, but more and more people don't believe
but you're clutching at straws.
I am not clutching at straws.
25 to 28 is not gloom, doom.
No, I'm not.
It is okay. It is concerning, but it's not doom.
It's about how you read the data.
Yeah, it's about how you read the data.
You read the data and you said everything is hunky-dory, there's exuberance.
42%, 40, one second, come on.
There is no exuberance.
I read statistics, so don't argue with me on this.
No, I will argue with you because I understand statistics.
4 out of 10 people are telling you that they think their quality of life will be better.
Because
that signifies no, that's
from
at
the
this,
pandemic years.
not from the pandemic, not from the pandemic. At this moment,
Rahul,
when asked about outlook for next year, 4 out of 10 respondents are saying that they think their economic outlook will be better. Now you're saying forget the numbers. Now the numbers don't suit you. You're saying forget the numbers.
Because the problem is that you're trying to outshout me.
Don't
outshout me. Let me talk.
Go on.
Please don't interfere. Just like you gave everybody
go on.
a monologue, give me a 30-second
monologue
as well. The problem with the data that you're putting out is you are selectively reading it. If there are more people in the economy, almost over half, actually 2/3 of people believe their condition will either be the same or will deteriorate, I think it's gloom. I mean, where is the exuberance? 6 out of those 10 people are saying, "Meri condition ya to aisi rahegi, ya aur kharab ho jayegi." I don't know. I think that's selective reading of the data. But let me just make one important point here. We were discussing the Indian economy. We were discussing the MSMEs. The share of the MSMEs in global exports used to be, in our exports, used to be 50%. It's gone down to 44%. Share of MSMEs in GDP has significantly gone down. About 30,000 MSMEs have shut down in the last 3 years. Which economy are we referring to?